Hey, free to play gang, welcome back to another video. So today, let's talk about Shadow Glow, and I have kind of like I wouldn't say it's free to play, but it is definitely R0. It's an R0 team basically, right? I wouldn't say it's free to play because number one, we have a Lian here. Number two, we have a Valeria, but Valeria is completely replaceable. You can replace her with maybe a Leora if you do have a Leora. I think Leora is actually possibly a little bit better because Leora might be able to pack a bigger punch. If not, then your next best alternative is probably going to be Leon, the rare Esper. Yeah, so these are the three main single hitting flow type nukers, and the reason why they have to be flow type is because each of your Espers here need to fulfill one specific typing. Now, you don't necessarily need to fulfill all the three different typings. So for example, for me here, I have one of each type. You do not need to fulfill each of these typings. You can also have Shimmer Espers. So if you have a Tether, you can also replace her with a Tether. You can replace any one of these Espers with a Tether. But most importantly, in this current content, Pursuits do not count as multi-hit. So what you notice is that, what's his face? Chalmers. If Chalmers uses his second skill, this multi-hit, you notice that his second hit actually does like 10% of the original damage or something like that. So very, very minuscule DPS. So using multi-hitters really suck for this content. But Pursuiters, like Ophelia, for example, she pursuits on her third skill into her first skill. Those do not count as multi-hits, so she will still deal full DPS. But the point of her pursuits is that each pursuit will count as an individual attack, so you can only hit the boss up to 5 times for each of your base 3 elements. So Ophelia on her own is really going to fulfill 4 hits. But okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Essentially, how the team is supposed to work is this. Abigail goes first. She gives the turn directly to my Lian, who is built generally slow. The reason for that is so that Lian can pop off her third skill at the start for some protection. And that's going to protect us from a lot of the incoming DPS, which we will see in just a bit. And now, Ophelia has to be in front for the reason because she is the slowest of my DPS Esper. So let's go through all their stats. Ophelia, she is, what's that, 150... What the heck is this? 161? 161 speed. Chalmers is more than that. Valeria is more than that. And of course, Sander is more than that. I can't count right now. Okay, but anyway, the reason why they need to have a certain amount of speed is because during the phase where you're racking up multipliers, you need to take a few more turns in order for you to really get that times 18 multiplier. Now, I'm not able to get 18 times multiplier on this setup. I definitely need to figure out how to improve on my current team. But for the most part, I made this team very consistent EX++. It's not always EX++, but I would say it's about 90%. And I did it because I gave Abigail this Harmony set. So whenever she uses a third skill, which she would use, because in this boss fight, when you're entering the stunned phase of the boss will actually fully cooldown reset all of your Espers, very similar to Counter Sonica, which we will see in just a bit as well. So that means she's always going to use her third skill during that phase, which will then give the rest of my teammates extra 10% damage for 2 turns, which is more than enough turns, right? But from what I understand, there are other strategies where players just kill off their supports. So they design a team where your supports just fall off during the stun phase, and by doing so, that actually gives your DPS Espers more turns to take. And what I'm talking about is you have up to 6 hits during the stun phase to deal as much damage to the boss. After that, he takes a turn instantly. Anyway, so the way I want to do it is, as always, I'm just going to blitz 10 times and give you guys a better idea of how effective or not is this team. So the thing is, this team is not going to be one of the strongest teams out there. Like, you will see other teams with maybe 20 million or whatever. My team is kind of like hovering around 12 million, and sometimes it dips right below that to like 9 million or something like that. So yeah, let's check it out. It's not going to be a good scoring team. It's just going to be, there you go, the first team itself. Already at EX+. But as you can see, most of my runs would be within the realm of like 12 million. It's always around these few because there's very little room for RNG to matter, and things can, like, you know, sometimes it very rarely goes wrong because there's a very limited number of turns that you can take within each of these fights. So you notice that all of my runs, like I said, they are well within the EX++ and quite safe as well. So let's take a look at probably one of our better runs here, and then maybe you can compare with one of our weaker runs. So let's say run number 9. Let's take a look at how this works. So we're going to push AP onto Lian. She's going to Protective Foam at the start, and we are going to push Shadow Glow to use his AoE attack. But because of Lian, right, Lian is super important. Sally is not able to replace her because you can see that the moment you get hit, we get healed as well. And of course, the shield really protects us a lot more than Sally can. And yeah, you see that Ophelia did not die, and she took the last turn to replenish her own HP with the absorb buff that Abigail provided to her. So we are all able to survive. This is how it's supposed to work. And in this phase, this is where we need a little bit of speed on our allies so that we can deplete all these 8 stacks of HP that the boss has, right? So I think for my team, I'm only able to manage like times. I cannot actually zero the entire boss. I have never ever done it. But I think I was able to do it. Yeah, I was able to do it with a Shen Pin, but I didn't want to showcase a Shen Pin comp because it's not very fair to you guys at least. Yeah, so this team I kind of enjoy a lot because it's just very consistent. Okay, you see that my Ophelia died, but it's still fine. We are going to revive her, right? We are going to revive her just because in this phase the boss actually fully cooldown resets your entire team, right? So she's able to revive Ophelia, and Ophelia just has her third skill up at the right time. So sometimes your runs might go completely off because your character died, but they didn't receive the free cooldown reset that the boss provided during the stun phase. But yeah, anyway, that's it. After you take 6 turns, the boss immediately takes a turn and then blah 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 blah. Yeah, so on and so forth. So let's take a look at the DPS spread, right? See, all the Espers here, they're all generally dealing about the same amount of damage because during the stage where you're racking up points, which is also the stun phase, all of your Espers only pretty much have like one single hit and that's about it. So like I said, it might be a good idea if you can formulate a team to do that, to let some of your supports die during that phase so that your DPS Espers can take a couple more turns, something like that, right? Alright, now let's take a look at one of our weaker runs and let's see what went wrong and maybe we can improve from that. But from where it stands right now, I feel like there is just very little room for improvement because it really just boils down to terrible RNG, which is why we lost. I suspect it's because our Ophelia died at the start, so sometimes the boss just deals a little bit too much damage and that takes out our Ophelia at the start. And because of that, the problem with taking out Ophelia is that Lian will instantly lose her bubble, right? She'll lose her dream bubble, which means when she takes her turn, she'll actually use her second skill. You notice that my Lian never ever used her second skill. And the reason why Lian never ever used her second skill is because she's always in that bubble state, right? Always in that state. But the moment she used her second skill, that actually hits the boss like 5 times. Okay, that's actually not what happened, right? So Ophelia didn't die. Okay, so that's weird. But the thing is, if Lian uses her second skill, that eats up a lot of my purple damage limits over here, right? So I've already hit 1 time because of the Valeria here. But if Lian uses a second skill, this thing is probably going to go to cap, which means my Valeria is actually not going to deal any damage. So yeah, make sure that none of your Espers die, especially if you're using a Lian, because that is going to screw up your run a lot, especially if you're using another flow type DPS. Okay, I'm not super sure why we did like 8 million. Yeah, I'm actually super puzzled. Why is that the case? The run seems to be working out perfectly fine. Yeah, that's so weird, right? So we got a full cooldown reset. Wait. Why? Oh, I see. Okay, because for some reason, sometimes I'm not super sure why that's the case, but you notice that Abigail took 2 turns during the stun phase, which means we only had room for 4 more DPS, no, sorry, 3 more DPS attacks because Lian took up another one of those turns. So 3 of my turns were actually taken up by my supports, and I only had 3 more turns left for my DPS Esper. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But that rarely happens, and I still do not really know why that happens at all. Okay, but anyway, that would be the rather, I would say, in between free-to-play and pay-to-win comp. So like I said, Valeria is extremely replaceable. You can replace her with a Leora, you can replace her with a Leon, or a Tever, or any big single-hitting Esper. Maybe you can even use an Inferno-type Esper because Sander doesn't take a lot of turns, so you still have a lot of room for Inferno attacks. But for the most part, I feel like Lian is a little bit hard to replace right now. But of course, I'll test out a little bit more and then come up with a better solution eventually. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more dislike content. Now with that said, this has been Derry Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.